Everybody, thank you so much for coming to our panel on global producers making animation across borders. Thank you. My name is Justin Leach. I'm the organizer of this panel and moderator today. I'm a little bit about my background. I'm the, let me see here. There we go. Okay, cool. I'm the CEO and founder of Qubic Pictures, and we're a company that specializes in international co-productions with Japan. We're very passionate and love Japanese animation, and we want to just try to make really cool, inspiring projects. Our first project that we made was called Kick Heart, which was which premiered at Anime Expo many years ago. I'm not sure if any of you were here for that. Are there any backers? Any backers here? Did you back? All right, thank you so much. That was a really fun project. And then after that, I produced Eden, and then was involved in Star Wars Visions, supporting the Lucasfilm team. And then more recently, I was executive producer on Leviathan, which is coming out July 10th. So excited for that. We're premiering tonight at 7:15 in Petrie Hall, so please come to that. I think you'll be happy. So a little bit more about Qubic. You know, we've worked with a lot of the top studios in Japan. I first worked in Japan in 2001 for Production IG, where I worked on a film called Ghost in the Shell 2 as a CG creator. And so from that point on, I sort of built all of these relationships over the years and friends, and and now anime has become such a popular art form and medium. I couldn't be happier. But at the time when I was living in Japan, I was like the only foreigner, and I felt kind of isolated. But now it's great to see so many people watching anime. So I'm very lucky to be joined by some great, some of the people that I've worked with, some friends of mine. I wanted to gather to discuss, what we do, and that we want to basically explore the dynamics and talk about the challenges of producing anime in Japan, and there aren't many people that do what we do. And so I thought it'd be really interesting for us to kind of gather together and sort of share our experiences and talk about this subject. So basically the panel, we want to basically explore the dynamics and challenges and successes of making international co-productions, and we'll be talking about that today. We will be spotlighting 3 projects that we've worked on, that some of the panelists have worked on, and we'll also be having a Q&A after if people have any questions. We will be showing some video material. There will be a sizzle reel that we're showing for Star Wars Vision, so there's no camera or photography allowed for that. So when we get to that, I'll mention it again, but when we get to that point, I'll please ask you not to record anything. All right, first up, I'm just gonna go through and I'll let each of the panelists introduce themselves. First up, we have Josh Rhimes, VP of Animation Development and Production at Lucasfilm.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. Exciting to see you all. I've been at Lucasfilm around 10 years now. Prior to that, I worked for Michael Eisner after he left Disney in animated storytelling, including BoJack Horseman for Netflix. Then moved over to Lucasfilm, worked on Lego Star Wars Rebels, The Bad Batch, Visions, our kids' content, Young Jedi Adventure. So all the animated storytelling and development comes through me, and I work with my colleagues to make it and reach out to all sorts of different audiences to really instill the values of Star Wars and to continue the 50-year legacy that George Lucas started. So it's a really exciting place to be, and working on Visions, getting to know my colleagues here and the Japanese studios has been amazing, and I'm excited to tell you more about it.
Hello everyone, my name is Arthur Isom. I'm the CEO and director of Dara Studio. It's a 2D anime studio. And I get to work with all these great people on their projects. And we focus on 2D anime, and with a particular focus on the anime medium itself. and we do a lot of, I guess, a lot of everything. Like we make shorts and series. We work with all the Japanese studios that were on Justin's image there, and yeah, and we also work with studios in the States. Nice to meet you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Cristiano Terry. I am the founder and CEO of Inlight. I'm also the producer of Mafinda. Inlight, yes, we have some Mafinda lovers. Please come. Yes. So Inlight, we started in 2020 with a dream to create stories that reflected a global culture. And so, you know, anime has so many fans from around the world, and why not bring those stories into the medium? And so our focus is doing that. And we have been very blessed to start a studio in Tokyo and work with now some of the, you know, to me, the most prolific anime studios, from Masao Maruyama, who is producing Mafinda, and Maruyama-san was the founder of MAPPA, one of the co-founders of Madhouse, and we're also working with Studio 4 Degrees Celsius, Tezuka Productions, so kind of bringing that legacy together with something that's new and fresh and exciting, and so I'm happy to be here with everybody, and thank you.
And we have an impromptu speaker. Quickly introduce yourself.
I've commandeered, I'm so sorry. First of all, I want to hear everyone real quick. I want to bring the energy up in the room. That's not enough. I need more, come on. All right. Hi, I'm Sai. Let's bring it back down again for me, because I'm not that important. Hi, I'm Sai. I'm the lead executive producer for Dio Shitajo, working with Arthel. I produced the first Saudi Japanese feature called The Journey, right now on Crunchyroll, with Sony. Having a lot of fun at Dio Shitajo, cooking up a lot of fun stories and projects, and having a lot of fun. The fact that we're both here means we don't know who's running the shop in Japan, so if there's any fires that happen, you'll probably know right away. So thank you, guys.
Hello, my name is Yoshihiro Watanabe. I'm a producer at a studio called Orange. Thank you. It's always scary to come back to my hometown because, like, will anyone know my works that I've worked on, like Dragon Stampede or Beastars? Well, thank you. Yeah, actually, what's interesting is that I mentioned Maria Masao. I actually met Maria Masao first time at an expo when I was volunteering for this con. This was what, 2026? So that's how I actually started out in the anime industry. From there on, I ended up in Japan for some reason. And it's because one day he calls me up and saying, "You want to work for Madhouse?" I'm like, "Yeah, I want to work for Madhouse." And he's like, "You want to move to Japan?" I'm like, "Yeah." Are you gonna, okay, so can you move next week? I'm like, what? I'm like, if I don't say yes here, there's no career in anime right now. This was 20, 30 years ago. And I'm like, yes. So I ended up here right now. But it's great to be in front of everyone, so thank you very much, and pass on the mic to Will.
Hi, oh wait, am I supposed to introduce myself now? Justin?
Yes,
Oh, of course.
Why?
Hi, I'm Will. I'm a producer currently residing in Tokyo. I work for studios in Japan such as Trigger, Genko, Ultra Super Pictures, and recently, not Japan, but I'm working for CDPR. Yeah, I've been doing this for I think 20 years now. I started out here in LA, and then 2 years ago I moved to Japan to see how the sausage is made. I cannot unsee it now. So, but yeah, thanks for bringing me on. I think I'm actually like maybe in cahoots with everybody here in some way or form. Yeah, if you hear about a bank being robbed during the weekend, that's us.
That's not me.
Sans Christian.
Yeah, we're a very small group of people. We've known each other for a while, and there's some newcomers, like Cristiano's new, and it's been fun to meet people that are also share the same passion for anime and share this dream of sort of collaborating with Japan. So it's been a really great pleasure to know you guys, and thank you so much for coming today. I really appreciate it. So I guess what I wanted to ask each of you, sort of what sparked your initial interest in anime? Was there sort of a pivotal moment where you were just felt like, I have to work in this field, I love this? What was, I'd like to hear you guys, each of your own sort of first moments involved with, your anime moment.
I'll start. I probably came pretty late to it because I was in very Western style animation for most of my career. And when we started talking to Japanese studios and started thinking about what Visions was and what it could become, that's kind of when I took the deep dive. We met a lot of studios, got to know them, got to know the creators, and then we got to make the thing, which was insane. But I think that is a testament to sort of all the hard work we all did, figuring out what Star Wars Visions would be. Everyone at Lucasfilm, especially the animation team, LAL, all the other collaborators we have in animation, Kathy Kennedy, everyone loves Japanese anime storytelling. The Jitageki samurai dramas really inspired George Lucas. So it was really a part of the DNA of all of Star Wars, so it was just thrilling to just dive in later in my sort of animation life, and have learned a lot since, so it's been exciting.
Arthel?
So similar to Justin, like I've been in Japan now for 20 years, and I think that what got me into anime, so when I was in high school, the very first thing that I saw that really just kind of blew my mind was Ghost in the Shell. And, I love Ghost in the Shell. So Ghost in the Shell is kind of, I don't know if it ruined my life, controlled my life, it's everything, it's my life. And so when I saw Ghost in the Shell, I decided then and there that, I'm gonna move to Japan and I'm going to work for the creators of Ghost in the Shell. And I remember when I told my parents that, they were just like, all right, whatever. you can't speak Japanese, you're like nothing, right? And so, but that was my focus. I went to college in California, and even when I went there, I remember telling the directors of our program, they were like, okay, this is what, in America, like Disney makes this, and I was like, no, I'm going to move to Japan, and I'm going to work for, the creators of Ghost in the Shell. And then again, they were just like, okay, yeah, okay. And so, then that was my focus. Like, I was like, I had to figure it out, and I ended up I reached out actually to Production IG, and I was surprised, that this was, I don't even know, this was so long ago. Because who responded? I don't even know who responded to me. Their email was like Ninja something, and
I wrote a blog called Samurai from New York.
Oh, so maybe it was Samurai then. So
yeah,
and then someone responded, and they were just like, oh, this is what you need to know to work in Japan, and I was like, oh shoot, someone actually responded, and so then that helped me, because then I was like, okay, then it's there, And then after I graduated from college, I moved straight to Japan. I didn't have a visa. I didn't have a house or anything. I just moved there. And then I realized when I got there that you needed those things. So it was really difficult. I couldn't speak Japanese either. It was really hard. But then and so then I went to art school there and figured that out. And then my first job in the anime industry in Japan was working for the creators of Ghost in the Shell.
There you go. Take the leap of faith, everybody. Do it. For me, I look very young, but I am a little bit older than I look. And I had a VHS of Spirited Away. I recorded it. You remember when you could record? So I recorded Spirited Away, and then I recorded Metropolis, and then I recorded all of these different anime films. And I was like, you know what, this is what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to get to Japan. I didn't speak Japanese either. And I just said, this is something that I want to do. I went to art school and I studied filmmaking and animation. I didn't want to be a starving artist. So I studied business, so I pivoted after doing art. I pivoted to business. And then I said, you know what, I'm just gonna start my own company. And I emailed Studio Ghibli. So you emailed IG, I emailed Studio Ghibli. And then a guy who, his name is Jeff Wexler, who some of you guys know Jeff. So I was like, Jeff, I have this project, I have this company, we're gonna do all this stuff, we're in Japan. He's like, what? What are you talking about? So, but I met Jeff and, met Mariyama-san through a good friend of mine, Shigeru Igari, who is the CEO of Atlas, the video game company. And, Mariyama-san and I, and similar with Jeff, and we just talked. And I think passion goes a long way, and also inspiring each other through your stories. So Mariyama-san was inspired by my story, I was inspired by his story, and we said, let's work together, And I think anime is such a great medium to infuse passion. Anime, unlike maybe some other animation forms, just puts so much emotion into the pen, right? And so I think that's what makes it special, and that's why I'm here. So, yeah, that's it.
I think we're gonna set a precedent of like how we got into the industries by emailing the people. Mine's also part of that story, weirdly enough. I guess my first inspiration was, I look older than I am, which is pretty old. No, but I was born in Norway, and weirdly in Norway, when I was being raised there with my parents, and I grew up seeing them hustle. Japanese storytelling still is, but back then was very prevalent, and I was exposed to my first stories being Monster and Darker Than Black, and just seeing some of the earlier OG, like multi-linear layered storytelling. So I think I fell in love with the storytelling of anime in terms of like the narrative depth of how things are done. The internal monologue and what you can get away with in anime versus like live action there's certainly two different worlds of it. And then, long story short, got into Hollywood as a professional screenwriter, which allowed me to return back to understanding how that format could change, and I thought, let me dig into my roots. So then I emailed Toei Animation, and Toei Animation was like, we have a place for you. Try out this project, which is to kind of bring together and bridge multiple different cultures together in the form of story, and kind of shipping it back and forth and producing in that sense. And that's how it started for me as well. It's just kind of taking that leap and seeing where it can take you, and then not letting go of the ropes. But also got to keep your sails open and understand that you can't control things you can't control, and you just have to allow it to land you in the places where it should start, and then start to guide it in the direction you want to go. Yeah.
Yeah, unlike everyone, I actually looked like this since high school. But yeah, before high school, I went to Gardena. I lived in Gardena, and in Gardena there's a library there, and I was still in elementary school. I had a Chinese friend with me at the library, and I spotted Dragon Ball manga in Chinese. And I was so proud of my own culture. Like, oh, look at this! This is a Japanese manga. And my Chinese friend was like, no, this is a Chinese comic. And I'm like, I was so offended at the time. But that's when I realized, I look back, this is something really, really fantastic. Someone could adopt another culture's stuff, and they feel it's part of their culture. This is what anime and manga brings us together at this moment. And that's been my driving force since then, to bring, basically, animation is the global language that connects everyone around this world. So since then, there's many shows that inspired me, like Perfect Blue. I found out that anime can be really scary. And then this just had to be my career when I was given the opportunity.
I too, like Nabe, look the age that I am.
Yes, you have.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I am worn and torn. No. So I started off, I grew up in Cerritos, so born and raised in Southern California. And like I actually didn't know the difference between cartoons and anime till I was about 20. So I always thought that the same anime, like the cartoons that you watch on Saturday morning, were essentially the same thing like you would watch at night, right? So like when I was 10 or 11, I was watching Nadia. And then like, it was like Nadia was my first crush. So then as I got older, you know, this was the era of kind of like torrenting. So I'll be asking people from the anime clubs like, oh, can I get that cartoon of like FLCL? And they're like, it's not cartoons, it's anime. And I'm all, I'm sorry, I didn't know the difference. But eventually I realized the difference and I wanted to get in there into that space. And so I've always worked somewhat adjacent. And it was funny when I started watching Gurren Lagann for the first time. And I sat there, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I want to be their friends. I want to be like the director and the animator's friends. And that was kind of the goal. And eventually it was just like, I don't want to make anime, I just want to be friends with these people. And somehow I've kind of like wormed and snaked my way into it. And I'm somehow here now. Yeah.
Yeah, my first experience actually was, you know, back in the 80s, and kind of talking about being old, but they used to publish the Nausicaa manga, I think it was Viz Media released it, and so that was like, I didn't really know who created it, I just thought, oh, this is so cool, I love this world. And then there was like this video game called Cliffhanger, probably nobody knows, but it was like a Dragon's Lair or like an animated version, like where you can play an arcade game and you try to control an animation, and it was Castle of Cagliostro. And I had no idea that they were directed or created by the same person. And then later, when I went to art school, I was like in the first week there, someone was showing the opening of Lapita, and my jaw just dropped to the floor. I was like, what is this? Oh my gosh. And so, you know, I'd grown up, my father owned a video store, he used to be a projectionist. I've grown up like loving film so much in my life. And so like seeing animation as film was just like so inspiring. And I've always wanted to make animation as film, and not as a separate, not like a cartoon or not something for kids, but just as a different way of creating a film. So that was and then later on in 1998, I worked I was an animator on a short film called Bunny, which won an Academy Award, and so I had this idea of like, okay, I'm gonna use this to get in and meet all the people in Japan. So in that year I went to Studio Ghibli, and I got to meet with Miyazaki and talk to him for 3 hours, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I was like, I have to come to Japan. I met Michael Arias, who was the director of Tekken King Creed, and it just was so inspiring and then from that moment I had to go, and then I would always, and somehow I think it was at the New York Society, or the Japan Society in New York, they had a screening of Jinro, and the people, and Ishikawa from Production IG was there, Ishikawa-san, and Maki-san was there, and I introduced myself, and we kind of became friends, and then I would always go visit, whenever he would come to any of the cons, like Otakon at the time, which was in Baltimore, I believe, I would always say hello, and then I remember one day I gave him a VHS cassette tape, and I said, please, I want to work for IG. And then one day he called me up and said, "Hey, you wanna come to Japan? We got a position for a foreigner. Would you like to come?" "Yes, please. I can't pay very much, but yeah, that's okay." And I threw everything away and just went to Japan. And then I remember the first evening, in the apartment. I'm looking up at the ceiling and I'm like, what did I just do? I don't speak the language, I have no friends, what am I thinking? What was I thinking? But it turned out to be like one of the most rewarding and also challenging experiences. But yeah, really, that was my kind of how I got into anime.
Woo! Justin, you forgot to say the most important thing, that we're both from Detroit.
Yes.
We're both from Detroit. Any Midwest people in here? Yes. What up, though? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but Detroit to Tokyo.
Yes. Actually, Cristiano, this next question is for you. In your view, why has anime resonated so strongly with audiences worldwide?
That's a good question. Everybody, talks about that, and I think many of the things that you guys just said, anime inspired you to get up and move and follow your dreams. And I think that the themes in anime, the storytelling, whether it's you like the story or you like the art style, it's transformative. And so I think that that is a language that is global. Art is global, and anime has, done a great job in fueling that and inspiring people around the world. So that's what I think.
Will and Arthel, you both live in Japan, and you spent many years there. I was curious if you could maybe talk a little bit about what sort of challenges have you faced living there? Have you, as a foreigner, love to hear that your perspective of living in Japan and working in the industry.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. It's so I've been in Japan now for 20 years, and it's interesting because my first job in the animation industry was, my first job, besides the part-time jobs at Pizza Hut, but my first job in the industry was in Japan. And so I didn't have experience working in the animation industry or film industry in the States, so I didn't know the difference between those things. And so I think that actually helped me because I wasn't comparing it to anything. And so being a foreigner in Japan, I think one of the most difficult things when I first got to work for Ogura-san at Kobo. So initially I was a background painter, and I think it was, no one thought I was a painter. Like everybody thought I was security. So I would go to we would go to all of the industry parties or to the meetings to talk about the next project. Even when I met Ishikawa-san, Ishikawa-san for the first time when he met me, he was like, hey, no. This is not an artist. And Ogura-san was like, no, he's a painter. And he's like, okay, if you say so. So I think that was very difficult, convincing everybody that actually I'm not a fighter or anything. I'm just an artist who just sits at my desk every day and draws. And then I think the next challenging thing was college. So I actually went to an animation school in Japan. It's called Yoyogi Anime Gakuin. And when I went to that school, so it's a very big animation school. It's everywhere in Japan, and they focus on anime specifically. And the hardest thing there was reading textbooks, because this was before Google Translate and all this stuff, before the internet was as big as it is now. And so the only thing, Japanese, because anyone in the audience, can anyone speak Japanese? Or are you studying Japanese? So the hardest thing, or actually, I'll ask a better question. Is there anyone who is studying a second language? Just show of hands. All right? And then the easiest thing, though, with studying a second language is the dictionary, right? Because you can just look at the word that you're looking for, and then you find it, and you can just move to the next word. But because Japanese uses characters, the dictionary is very difficult. That was the hardest thing. It's it would take me 7 hours to translate my homework. This is before I even got a chance to answer it. I had to first translate the whole book. It's to use the Japanese dictionary, you have to count the strokes, and then you gotta find the kanji in the book and then count all the strokes, and then then figure out. And then the word, the definition is also in Japanese, so I had to then count the strokes again. And I just had to keep doing that over and over and over. That took forever, so that was really hard. That was the hardest thing in my life. But it helped me to speak Japanese now. So, and then I think the third hardest thing is trying to, initially it was trying to find I guess like-minded folks. It can be a little bit lonely when you first go to a country and no one speaks English and everything. But the great thing is that the anime community is pretty strong, and so I got over that. And it was.
But adding on to that, right, Arthel, for animation, it's hard to learn Japanese from an American perspective, right?
Yeah.
But on top of that, if you're working in animation in Japan, that's a subset of languages that even normal people, Ibanji, normal Japanese people don't even know. So then when you're looking at certain vocabulary and words and ways of doing them, that's almost a secret code, right? And that's the big hiccup that I think we're all finding right now with all these people on the internet trying to be animators, is that they don't know that specific technique and language. So if you want to get into animation in Japan, it's not only like helpful to know the language, but also like know the codex, you know?
Adding that to studio culture in Japan, every studio has different cultures. So every studio might use the same terms, but they talk about different things. So a typical thing I joke about is a pan. Pan is camera, you slide it up or down. So studios pans this, pans that, pans this. I'm like, it's not. It's actually supposed to slide it. Don't move the camera. But
Yeah, that's true. Every studio has their own way.
Yeah, even like when it comes to backgrounds, right? Like the words, because I come from like my base is in America, so then we have like all these technical languages that we need to use for the backgrounds, and then when we get to the Japanese side of things, it's like, what is this?
Yeah, man, like trying to figure out just like Shoshiten and like Itentoshi and like Staji, and I was just like, let me count these strokes again.
Yeah, I mean, you know, also each studio like has its own culture, and a lot of the other studios are born out of other studios. Like there's sort of like Madhouse is one. Like out of Orange is like Madhouse Connection. Production IG has a lot of like spin-off studios, and it's sort of like if it's like you're from House IG or House.
Those languages.
Justin, I tell people like it's like, oh, what's the Japanese anime industry like here compared to like the American ones? And when I'm talking to like execs and people that are, you know, just doing like what is it, like intros, you know, and I go, have you ever heard of the Warring States of Japan, like during the Shogun era? And then like they're like, yeah, it's like that never disappeared. That just turned into like zaibatsus, and like I feel like the anime industry is very much like that, like because you know there are certain lines you cannot cross, you know, because you are house, you know, like of house of like house blah 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 of this, right? And it actually comes from what I understand, it comes from two studios, and it's Tatsunoko and Toei. Yeah, and then like you are essentially a branch or like a vassal of like a lineage of one of those two studios. So like
Tezuka.
Yeah, Tezuka. Yeah. And so like when like I heard that like, oh, like I'm Trigger, that's technically from Tatsunoko, right? And I was like, oh, and then there's a little bit of that like, oh, you don't cross certain lines, right?
Because we're IG, right? So
Yeah, we're
Tatsunoko.
yeah.
They were both from IG branch, and so
We're
the IG
family,
family.
basically,
Yeah.
So
We do
therefore,
everything.
We're also family.
rivals.
the Tezuka lineage, so.
So he's from the god lineage.
I'll also add in one thing about, for those wondering about the writing aspect of it and the story notes of it, like story sessions in the States versus story sessions in Japan are also very different, in the sense that the comparative notes that you get, like moe, I've been getting that recently, like they're like more moe. And I was like, what's the English equivalent of moe? And you kind of look it up, and then you go back to them and they're like, is this moe? They're like, no, like moe. Like, and I was like, you're being so aggressive with moe. It's confusing me, you know? For those that know moe, it's like the wholesome aspect of it. They're like, more moe, you know? Like, it doesn't. So there are aspects of that you also have to. There's a learning curve to it too. But then it's kind of fun because then in the evolution of understanding what wholesome is, the gap between wholesome and moe, for this example, there is so much in discovery between the characters and what you're trying to do. And then the other notes you get, and I'll do the last one, not to hog the mic, is that when you're writing characters in Japan, the characters are in comparison to Japanese culture-based backgrounds. Versus when you're writing from a US background or US-based or Western storytelling training and you're coming into Japan, they're saying, they'll be giving you notes like, that feels too real, like a live action actor, like a live action drama or so. We need to make it more like manga, more like anime, there is a big difference between the characters. The comparative analysis, like it's more of a character, when they're looking for this character, they're like, oh, is it like, and here would be like Brad Pitt, but then we'd be like, no, it's more like Rin from Fate Stay or something, you know. That's the character development and how it's built is also different as well, which is fascinating in its own right.
Just adding on to that allegiance thing, it's called fumie, right? Yeah. So fumie is like, they're like, what's your fumie? And they're like, so fumie comes from like a historical aspect of Japan when Christianity was being persecuted in Japan. And so they would ask you to step on a cross. And if you couldn't step on a cross, then you knew you were Christian, and then you'd be executed. So like and then I think it was the princess or the queen, which one was it? Like of Kyushu that they asked to like step on the, was it the king or
queen, yeah.
the queen? Yeah, and it was like step on it, and she's like you can't, like she couldn't, and I was like aha, you're a Christian. So that term fumie is actually like used, like what allegiance you are in Japan.
We were lucky enough to jump around allegiances with visions. We got to work with everybody.
That's the thing about being in the U.S.
Yeah, it's a smorgasbord. Yeah, I also wanted to talk a little bit about, I think Arthel's journey is really interesting. I mean, it's just such an amazing story how, you moved to Japan, started your own studio. I just think that's absolutely amazing. I mean, tell me more about that journey and what made you decide to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we were talking about allegiances and things, and then the one thing that helped with that journey, and I always, so you'll hear me often speak about Ogura-san and production AG, Ishikawa-san, because I feel like without them, I wouldn't be here. Because the great thing about Japan, like as Will brought up, that studios, like depending on where you are, I feel like in America, not to throw American studios under the bus, but America, like the studios are not really friends, right? Like it's like this company is they only do their thing, and then this company does their thing, and then that's it. But in Japan, it's actually not like that. Like the companies all work together, and because of that lineage, like even when studios branch out from another studio, they still work very like hardly with the other studio that they left from. And then they work to make sure that studio succeeds, and they help them build it out. And when I went to, when I was working at Ogura Kobo, I remember I would often talk with Ogura-san and Ishikawa-san and everyone. They were like, "Oh, what's your ultimate goal? What's your dream? You came from America. Did you just come here to steal our techniques?" I was like, we were able to talk about that. And then I was like, no. Like, I want to like learn and work and like I really just respect what you guys want to do or what you're doing and then Ishikawa-san and Ogura-san was like, oh, okay, like so you want to start a company, and I thought like maybe if I would have said that in America, like they would have just kind of instantly ostracized me, like, oh, okay, you're not going to be part of our culture. But in Japan, they were like, oh yeah, that's great. Okay, so like what are you going to add to anime and to what we're doing here? And then from there, like Ogura-san introduced, so he would often like take me to like other studios and introduce me to the other studios and things, and it was like you can get advice from these people. And when I decided to start my own company, like of course in Japan, because we were in Japan, I had to first get permission from Ogura-san, and then Ogura-san then sent me to Ishikawa-san, and then like I just let them know, okay, this is what I want to do. And then they both like, oh, okay, great, then we support you in what you want to do. And then from there on, I can just always call Ishikawa-san and Ogura-san and get their input. And I think to then go back to the journey, like when I first moved to Japan, I wasn't intending to stay in Japan for 20 years. I thought I would come there, work, and then maybe like start a company, but bring that back to America. I thought that my company would be in America, but like I guess Japan just kind of grows on you. You would like, I would be at work every day, all day, because in Japan you work from morning to morning, and like you're just working every day. And with my senpai, and we would just, I would go to work, and we'd eat breakfast at work, and then eat lunch, and then we eat dinner, and then the work wasn't finished because we would be working on paintings for a show that was literally airing the next day. And like that's just the culture of Japan. And I know that a lot of you folks are probably like you're reading the blogs and things, like, oh my God, that's so terrible. But it's when you're in it, it's different because we're not forced to work in the industry. And that was something that I learned when I was there. Like everyone really loves what we're doing, and that's the reason we work so hard. And I'm sure like Lucas, like they love Star Wars and everything that is Lucas, and we all love what we're doing, and I felt that, and I realized that when I got to Japan, that everyone is not making art or anime because we want to make money or because we want to like just be a famous artist. Like everyone was just like there because we want to make the most beautiful thing that we can make. And so we would just spend all day just painting because we wanted to make sure that this looked like what it was supposed to look like. And I got that from everyone there. And that helped me to really want to just be there more and more and more and keep painting and growing.
And Japan has that culture of craftsmanship and also apprenticeship. You know, usually you, like, also for me, Ishikawa-san was sort of my mentor and, you know, like similar to you. And you build these relationships, there's respect, and there's a sense of community. And really, and artists usually, especially the more talented they are, I feel like they'll only just work on the things they want to and then they're inspired by. So it's like, they don't really work so much, they're not really motivated so much financially. It's really about what makes them happy.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I actually prepared, I have your demo reel, so maybe we can show your work here.
Yeah, we work on like a lot of different things, different styles.
So, Watanabe-san, I wanted to ask you, you know, from your perspective, as you know, production teams become more diverse and come from different cultures, I'd like to know sort of how do you define what anime truly is?
That's a hard question to answer. Well, from the start of my animation career, I worked on a lot of international collaborations. One of my first projects was a Marvel direct-to-video series called Hulk Versus. And that was my first inspiration, how we were giving American storyboards and we were asked to animate that whole sequence. And I felt that, well, I'm just working on a cartoon, it's not really anime. And the director goes in and he adjusts all the timing for the boards, and it's suddenly you feel this sensation of anime. So I'm like, oh, anime, it might not even be the looks of it. It's just how people how people tell story in the timing of things. So it feels that like anime, it focuses on what should be told slowly or faster, and that really opened up my mind to many forms of anime. But I had a lot of regrets. I worked on, for example, like Supernatural animation as a production assistant, or what else did I work on? Oh, I worked with the Wachowski brothers on an unreleased movie, feature film, and I felt that there's many differences between cultures of the US side and Japan side, especially how the US side at the time was so used to doing work for hires to Asian studios. So they would just want to just let them listen, and anime side wants them to listen just about themselves. So I felt that to really communicate for international projects, we need to bridge the culture. It's not just speaking the same language, it's bridge the culture. And I really felt that we were able to accomplish that on our show, Leviathan, because not just because it's an American novel and we have a French director, and Justin's American, I'm from America too, but to bridge that, but there was a whole team of other people. There's Justin's producer who's not here, Kat, as a Scottish girl that lives in Japan, and there's another Japanese American as well. So it takes a lot of people to make anime, and to support that foundation to communicate different culture is what's essential to really create something international project.
And definitely for Leviathan, you know, we kind of made the conscious choice to work together side by side, and it was not something where we were saying, okay, you have to do this. I knew that we could never take that type of approach, and I think, and also, you know, my personal interest in all of this has always been to make that bridge. How can we create something new that takes the best of both worlds? How can we work side by side? And, you know, because I had worked before I lived in Japan, I had spent a lot of time working at US feature animation studios, and one thing that I really liked about that experience was there were so many people from around the world working together, and I just loved that, creating that environment and learning from everyone's cultures, and everyone brings their ideas and experiences to the process. But to do that with Japan is very difficult because of the language. It's hard to create that same environment. So I've always wanted to try to foster these type of projects where we can work side by side, almost as if we were in a studio all together, and see what happens. And I'm hoping that we can continue to make projects like this and continue to evolve and grow in terms of how we work together. In terms of we actually Christiana, I want to talk to you about your project, Mafinda, and
Yeah, speaking of bridging
Yeah.
cultures, we're bridging the Congo and Japan. So I'm gonna let you.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an amazing project. When you first told me about it, I thought it was such a great sort of mix of ideas and cultures. And I mean, could you tell us a little bit about the project and sort of how it came about?
Yeah, so I couldn't talk about this project without highlighting the creator. I'm going to ask you to stand up, Patience. Patience is the creator of Mafinda. We follow Patience on Instagram. I'm lurking on Instagram. I'm trying to find who is the best, what is the best stuff I can find, what inspires me. And I saw Patience's work and it just immediately captivated me. And I think the best stories take you to another world, right? I don't want to be in the same place I'm at. I want to go somewhere else. I want to learn more. And so I met Patience, and then I met another person who's very important, who I'm going to ask to stand up. Don Hewitt, please stand up. Don is one of our screenwriters on Mafinda. Don worked with John Lasseter on Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro. What else, Don? Nausicaa, bringing them from Japan to the United States, and Disney worked on that. So that was a Disney project with John Lasseter. And obviously Spirited Away won an Oscar, right? And so it's so great when you can take one culture and bring all of that art and that storytelling and that authenticity and uniqueness and bridge it with another culture that is just as powerful. And so through this project, we found there's a lot of things in common between Japanese culture, Japanese spirituality, Japanese just everyday family stuff, slice of life with people in the Congo, right? How we speak to our relatives, how we, talk crap with our friends, how we relate to the spiritual world, right? It's very similar. And so with Mafinda is about a 13-year-old girl named Odie. You see Odie is on the okapi. I want to see this image all the time. Have you ever seen a little black girl from the Congo riding inside the belly of a monster on an okapi with a flaming torch? I don't think you've ever seen that. But it's about Odie, and she's living in 1970s Kinshasa, which is going through the Congo crisis. And at that time, it's very dangerous, and she there's a raid and she has to run into the forest. So Mafinda means forest, right? And she runs into the forest and is transported to 1600s Kingdom of Congo, where she meets another young girl named Nasambi, who's also lost in the forest, and they have to find their way back home together. And what Odie learns is, in her time, there's actually a similar conflict that is also going on in the Kingdom of Congo at that time. And it is the separation between humans and spirits. And so how do we connect to our ancestors? How do we connect to the spiritual world? How do we connect to nature? And it's a similar conflict that's going on in Odie's time. So these two young girls learn from each other, and Odie learns how to honor and believe in her traditions and in her ancestors. And she, goes through an amazing journey doing this. And so we brought this to Maruyama-san at Studio M2, his current studio. We're both here because of Maruyama-san, right? And he was just captivated by the story. And he wanted to see, he's just like, I just want it to be about Odie. And then I'm like, okay, it has to be Odie and Nasambi. And we went through this back and forth about how, how we're going to tell the story, which I think is so, great when you talk about the writing styles, right? Or how animation is done differently in the West versus in Japan. We took an approach where it's like, look, how can we find what we all are excited about for this film and do that together, right? Let's bring all the elements that we love, we mutually love, and also some of the elements that you may see that I don't see. You know, I just take a very collaborative approach. You can't make art by telling somebody what to do. You have to make art by being mutually inspired. And so, you know, this has just been a great opportunity, and come to our panel. It's at 5 o'clock. You'll learn a lot more because I want to keep talking. Yeah, come to our panel. All right.
Yeah, excited to learn more about your project.
Thank you.
Let's see. So, Watanabe-san, what strategy did you employ to effectively translate sort of emotional depth across diverse cultures?
I find that really you can't really do it by just talking. It's really that you have to spend time with each other. Like all the artists, they consume so much like entertainment, but behind that, there's the whole culture they grew up in. So like the director Christophe, he's from a French background, for Leviathan, sorry. And he lived in Japan for 20 years, but a lot of his inspiration, I know that his inspiration comes from like Ghibli and stuff, so that we share the common language. But behind that foundation, there's the French foundation. So you really can't just have meetings and create something interesting that spreads across different cultures. You really have to get to know each other. You have to spend time. In my past projects, we just had meetings for international projects. So we didn't even have video chats. So it was just, they come like once a year or twice a year at most. And we just had meetings then. And then it's just pre-production material sending over emails and stuff. I felt that really makes it dry. So we really have to like try to just, even for drinks, spend as much time together. That really gets to let us know each other. And even for Japanese production, that's something that really, between just Japanese creatives, it's something necessary. So for international projects, I mean, I really respect Christiana for spending time so much in Japan to try to get this new culture to them. We're creating this new art form.
Thank you.
And Josh, you know, Visions is a very interesting project because you got to work with so many different studios. And I'm curious how you balance, you know, sort of the Star Wars mythology and storytelling while sort of like allowing anime to be anime. Like how could you talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, as sort of a producer at Lucasfilm, and you know, we were stewards of that storytelling that started 50 years ago now. But the great thing we learned very quickly is, you know, the creators at these studios also love and revere cinema, and Star Wars also came to Japan. It became a big part of sort of pop culture history there as well. And these are master storytellers at all of these studios. So they get it, right? Like Star Wars is based in myth. They are myth making their own stories. So as creatives, talking to creatives, it was, I wouldn't say easy, but it was natural. And I think what we do as producers, we try to get the best out of the creators that we work with. We try to support them along the way. And, you know, the goal with Visions was really to let these creators be themselves, to express their culture through the lens of Star Wars, and you know, the stories they're interested in telling through the world of Star Wars, because it is so big and all-encompassing. I just want to echo what Nabe said, is that to get the best out of these creators, it is really about spending time with them. When we made Visions Volume 1, it was during COVID, so it was especially hard to do meetings over Zoom through translators. And I will say it is so important to have amazing translators. And you know, I think someone mentioned Kat and Kanako at Qubic, and Yoshiko, they're amazing, and for us in the West, like get to know your translators, because they really are the window to communicating, from west to east. But it's been a great process so far.
Yeah, that's kind of like one of the road bumps that I run into all the time, which is like, there's just like a big cultural difference between Japan and the West. And I think a lot of it is the assumption that the way we do it in our own country is how we make animation. And it's really important to, if you want to work with Japan, understand their version of storytelling, to be figuring out a way to build that relationship and adapt and all speak the same languages. Because if you all are interested in doing, working with Japan, I'd highly recommend reading Culture Map, which is a book that it talks about how all different cultures work differently. And they have a graph, actually, that matches with the US with other countries, and you'll find out that when it hits Japan, nothing matches with the US. So that's something really important to know. For example, everything that I've learned with business making in Japan has not been through a book, it has been through other people like Maki-san, or producers that I know. And one thing I learned, which was a big difference with the US and Japan, was deals are made outside of the room. In Japan. You only go into the meeting room to put ink on paper. Well, even if that happens anymore. But all your deals, all your relationships, everything that they've been talking about right now, those are all made outside of your business meetings.
Yeah. I would say it's the first thing that comes to mind for me in my experience is horses, because one of the things I learned in terms of cultural translation was actually in the animation room itself, when we were talking about how to animate horses, between the perception of horses in Saudis and the perception of horses in Japan. And it was so interesting. Artel and I have actually talked about this, where we're horses are so unique in terms of animating horses. Animating a lot of horses is really, really tough. But I remember a conversation in the room where they were talking about the way that the horse trots and the horse runs. And from the Arab Peninsula perspective, they trot in a different way than in the Japanese perspective of how horses trot. It was so fascinating, to the point where there was an argument in the room because they couldn't find the middle ground in which the horses would trot. And then it landed on, well, our horses are faster than yours. and that was a perfect way to show the difference between two cultures in terms of how it translates into animation.
And then the solution was, we'll just hire Inoue-san.
Who animated on Black, by the way.
Yeah. So Inoue-san, if you don't know, is our James Baxter. He's the horse. You've watched Shirobako? That old guy in Shirobako is supposed to be Inoue-san.
Isn't he actually voiced by him too?
Is it?
I thought so, yeah.
I mean, it's like the studio. I get anxiety watching it,
That's the point. That's the point of the
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to learn animation for anybody that wants to know. Shirobako is a perfect show to teach you about animation is made. In the perspective of a producer, actually, the protagonist is the producer of the show.
Yeah, my mentor right there too. Over the sun's in there. He's always smoking.
He's the guy.
He's the background painter.
It is kind of odd to see an animation made about because when I worked at IG, I think there's even an IG in there, but called something else, and it was uncomfortably too real. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that.
I couldn't watch Shirobako for 5 years actually because of that.
I mean, I watched the first episode. I was like, oh, I'm so stressed out already.
I see my boss in it.
That's right.
I remember there's an episode where they locked the director in a jail in the studio.
Oh, Kanzume?
And actually, it is kind of. It has been known that sometimes when the director isn't producing the storyboards, they will take the director to a onsen or hotel and lock them in the room because you got to finish these storyboards. So it's kind of
From what I understand, it's called kanzume, right?
Yeah, kanzume.
Yeah, and it's canning.
Yeah.
The term comes from canning, where you can the director into a room, and it's you can't leave until. Maybe I probably shouldn't talk about it.
Regular thing. They will lock him up in a hotel room.
They lock him up
Not
in a
in a literal cage.
luxurious hotel with all the amenities, and then we're just get it done.
yeah. All right. Well, we could probably go on and on about production stories or working in production studios in Japan. But yeah, we do have some time, not too much time left. So yeah, I do want to talk a little bit about another production, Leviathan, which Watanabe-san and I worked on. This is a production between Netflix, Qubic Pictures, and Orange. And it's coming out July 10th.
We have the premiere tonight.
And we're gonna have so this has been a labor of love, and this is an example of the type of collaboration that can happen between different cultures and different stories, and I think the result is really amazing, and I'm really proud of the work that everyone at the studio did. I think what makes this production unique is that it's a truly international team, as we mentioned earlier, and so it has it introduces a lot of within the story. We've sort of imbued a lot of different cultural references, and Christoph helped us make sure that we portrayed Europe in the right way, and then Orange had just such a wonderful animation ability to create these beautiful fluid animation, and one of the things that was really great about this show is like the paintings, the background paintings were just so rich, and you'll see it if you guys go to the premiere tonight. Woo! You guys will be able to see it. But really, really proud of the work that everyone did. I'm curious, Watanabe-san, we've worked together on this for many years, and I'm curious, like, how does this production compare to other productions, or what is your feeling about this show in particular that resonates with you?
The first time Justin came to us, we just actually met. I don't remember how we met. Like, it wasn't even the business formal. We just like met somewhere.
Yeah.
We were like, I have this project, and the director lives like literally 5 minutes away from your studio. I'm like, interesting. But at the time, we were just finishing up the second season of Beastars, I think, and we were looking for a next project, what we're going to handle. And we felt that how we approach things, we want to approach a theme that really is something global and universal, and something that is not affected by time. And I was looking, Justin presented me Leviathan, and I'm like, this is a story about two different worlds in World War I, from two different classes. So from an aristocrat to a commoner. And they're connected by something unusual, and also something else that connects them is music. So art connects them, and I felt that this is a story that needs to be told now. We are in a world where we need to be more open to things. We need to be talking about things. So. It's great that we're talking about, we don't need to really be the same thing, because that's what makes us the great thing about us. So this story is about trying to have the same experience, eat the same food, travel together, and experience many different things together. And I felt that this is the story about myself as well. And this is a story that I feel that a lot of people around the world are experiencing. So that's one of the reasons that I really felt that Leviathan was a fantastic project to work together.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because the two main characters are from two different countries working together, and they actually kind of build something together. And I think that is a deep sort of message that's in the show. And I think one of my favorite parts, music does play a very important part. And I mean, maybe I shouldn't say it because I don't want to spoil the story, but I will say music, I don't want to spoil that, so I won't say, just watch the show. But when I talk about it, it kind of moves me to tears. But basically the theme is that, sometimes we may appear different, or it might seem like we're singing a different song, but in actuality, we are singing the same song. And even though so it's about coming together and realizing that we share these common bonds as humans living on this planet. So it's a very special in that way.
Kind of like this panel.
Yes. About coming together. So I'm going to show a quick a teaser trailer for the show. We're super excited for you guys to see it, so please come tonight. We're running a little short on time, so let's just jump right to the Visions spotlight, if you don't mind, Josh. We might be showing something, yes? So Josh, could you tell us a little bit about Visions Volume 3 and a little bit about the project and how it sort of came about and the framework of the project?
I mean, we talked a little bit about sort of how it originated, just the deep ties to Jidaigeki samurai dramas in the themes of Star Wars and the filmmaking of George Lucas. There was a Visions art book that George Lucas put out, I think in the early, like around 2010, where he went out and got a bunch of artists from around the world to take their crack at an art piece. So that's kind of how we got the name Visions for the show, for the anthology. And now we're into Volume 3, and unlike Volume 1, we were able to get to Japan a number of times to finally meet the studios face to face, to break bread, to go through it all. And again, it was a fantastic experience. There are nine stories. There are 3 returning stories from Volume 1. There'll be a sequel story to The Duel. There'll be a sequel story to The Village Bride called The Lost Ones. And there will be a sequel story to The Ninth Jedi, which is also really exciting. And even after that, we are expanding the world of The Ninth Jedi even in a bigger way with a Star Wars Visions Presents limited series coming next year. And we announced that at Star Wars Celebration earlier this year. So here are all the studios for Volume 3. They're all amazing. You know, a huge part of Star Wars Visions is sort of cultivating the anthology, reaching out to different studios, finding what kind of stories they want to tell, what kind of styles they want to tell it in. And we have a really fantastic group this year. This is a still from Ohira-san's Vision short called Black. It was so amazing to get Shinya Ohira to do a Star Wars Visions story. It is unlike anything you've ever seen. It's sort of a psychedelic trip into the mind of a stormtrooper, and sort of everything they've gone through. It's the score is really interesting. It's jazz inspired, and it's just stunningly gorgeous.
And the animation team is incredible. Like, they have all like the most famous Japanese animators who've worked on it. A lot of Ghibli animators, Inoue-san, which we mentioned earlier. It's really sort of like the all-star list of animators. So
yeah, David Production helped put it all together, and they were fantastic partners along the way. What else can we show, Justin?
Yeah, so you guys are you guys ready to see a sizzle reel?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's turn out the lights.
So all of those episodes, all 9, will be on Disney Plus on October 29th. So just a few months away. And The Ninth Jedi, again, we are working with the team at Production IG, Kenji Kamiyama, to bring The Ninth Jedi to much more robust life. It's going to be a multi-part limited series coming in 2026, so right around the corner. It's really exciting to see what they're doing with the world. Again, infusing Japanese culture into the world of Star Wars and really expanding on the story that was such a fan favorite in Volume 1. You'll see a little more in Volume 3 from director Shiotani-san, who brings his unique spin to the world. And then again, we're going to pick up the bigger journey in the Ninth Jedi limited series next year. So excited for you all to see it.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. We have about 15 minutes left, so I'd like to open it up for Q&A for anyone that's interested. All right, that's fast. Okay.
Oh, that was fast.
3 simple questions. 1, will you have a special premiere for Volume 3 of Star Wars Visions at this year's Animation Film Festival in Hollywood? Oh, thank you. Do I need to repeat that question again or no?
Will we have some sort of premiere event? It comes out in late October, so it's July right now. So we will see. That is a question for a later day right now.
Also, I don't know what's the plan for Star Wars Vision, but I do hope and pray to God it makes it the Blu-ray. It's so damn good. I need a copy of this.
No, we love physical media.
Yeah.
And also, I have another question, but I think it might be longer, so I think I'll wait maybe after the panel's over, so everybody else could get a question in. If that's all right.
Sure. Absolutely.
Just because it was brought up, I need everybody's cartoon crush.
Cartoon crush.
Uh-oh.
Wait, so cartoon as in like American?
Like the character?
Anime.
The anime or the character in the anime?
The character anime crush,
Male or
yeah.
female, it doesn't matter.
Right? Oh, okay, yeah. So character in the anime
Yes.
that you like.
Oh, I know.
Okay, that's easy for
We know
go.
ourselves.
It has to be Motoko from Ghost in the Shell.
Diego Luna from Andor.
Oh, man. You know what's interesting? So, I love Ghost in the Shell, but my cartoon crush is actually from a different anime. Yeah. Has anyone seen Escaflowne? So I remember when I was in college, and this is kind of weird, but I'm a furry, I guess, essentially, because I really like Meryl. I remember every day I was like, woo!
Mine is simple. It's Inuyasha. That's daddy. Okay, go ahead.
Daddy. Give me daddy.
I mean, Mononoke Hime for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
I'm torn. It's either Steven from Steven Universe or Finn and Jake from Adventure Time.
I guess Diego Luna, Idris Elba, Mads Mikkelsen. You can kind of see I have a type. Yeah.
Wait, what happened to Nadia?
So like with Nadia, it gets kind of weird because you feel like it's an X. So like when you're walking by to all the DVD or when they did that Nadia exhibition in Japan, I was like, it feels kind of weird.
I'm gonna need you to get back with it, Will.
I avoided this question.
Okay,
I think Western animation growing up in the 80s, like Gem and the Holograms probably.
Truly outrageous.
We're all like really cute. This is really
Jim?
sexy. I feel like Jim is super sexy.
Yeah. She-Ra. Yeah, also She-Ra.
Do you remember Pirates of Darkwater?
Yeah.
What was that? There was that one girl, the main character. What was her name? Yeah, the one that traveled with them. Yeah, I would pick that one.
Y'all having too much fun with this question.
That was a loaded question.
Could I pick? Okay, right there. Yeah.
Hey y'all. Okay, so this essentially is the person who I forgot your name. Sorry. Who worked on the journey, but also the panel at large. So I know you said with toy animation they work on the journey too. But my question is, when you are blending the cultures together when making anime, especially with the journey. I'm Muslim, so that was
very
really cool to
I
see.
appreciate that.
So what does the conversation look like in the process of that? Are you interacting and telling people how cultures, or so I know we kind of touched base on you have to experience those, but Saudi and Japan, that's a different conversation between America and Japan.
It's wild. No one's asked this question, but I've always wondered if people wondered this question.
Yes.
So, yeah, because it's not an Islamic story. The journey isn't an Islamic story per se, because it's pre-Islamic times. It's like the Warring Times, the Game of Thrones, when it was tribal days. But the transference of that story in Japan, where in Japanese it's very much a stoic outlook in terms of how it's done, and you can almost say a very more spiritual outlook. It elevated the spiritual elements, which I thought would be the opposite direction of how it would be received. And for the elements of action, it was different types of understanding how combat was done. which was cool because I didn't think that there'd be a different, like, that combat would be a harder question than the spiritual aspect of it. I think the spiritual aspect was like very much understood a lot more of like, okay, that Deus Ex Machina is a part of storytelling that sometimes, if not set up correctly, could cripple the story itself. But if Deus Ex Machina is part of the makings of what a narrative structure is, and you set it up properly, and you make it a Chekhov's gun in a way, and then you deliver afterwards, it would make sense. Done deal. That was easy to get through. The combat was, oh, in this type of blade, the old school blades, of the curvature structure blades, how did they swing those versus a katana, right? And how is animation different in terms of that? And so it was cool to see where you would have an expectation to be different and where it would be same. And then when it subverted those expectations, it actually created more of an appreciation that it's maybe we're putting those walls up ourselves of thinking that it would be hard to make that cultural jump when it's actually a lot easier when you try. Does that answer that question?
It does. I also just have another thing to go with the
I
journey
think
before.
there's people waiting.
Yeah, sorry. We can talk after.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kai. I'm an animation writer. And I'm kind of asking a question comparing the US market and the Japanese market. So over here, we see a lot of studios exclusively looking for IP and, you know, like books and comics, etc. And I was wondering if that is similar or different with Japanese studios, and if you all are specifically looking for original content.
I mean, I was going to think, Justin, you have a great outlook on IP.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and Josh too, I think, seeing from...
Maybe I can
manga, right?
help answer this, because I'm kind of in the process of this. So if, like, when it comes to Japanese animation, I think if you're looking for a writer, like, from the US to do it, you could probably only be relegated to doing originals. I don't know if you know this, but all anime is, like, majority of anime, I would say 99% of it is adaptations from manga. So, like, all the things that you need to do as an anime writer is, I mean, yeah, you have to have the creative in terms of the writing, but you kind of have to match exactly one-to-one for what the words are on the panel. So that's almost like copywriting than it is like original. So, and then when it comes to originals, that's a little bit harder too, because you have to break into that language as well. So if you have one of these fine people on the panel to be able to work with, you might have your chance to write anime, but like being as part of like the Japanese system, say if you want to write for Spy Family or Dan or whatever that might be, that actually starts from being a seisaku shinko. You have to be in production, or majority of the time you are in production, or you're like a writer for a play, or you're a writer for a novel, or you're a writer from something that you're well known, that you get pulled in to write the script. At least that's from my experience.
All right, I think we've run out of time. We're getting the official warning light, so we'll have to wrap it up. But maybe afterwards, I'll be outside if anyone has any questions. But yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Yes, come to the Mafinda panel, room 403 at 5 p.m.
Also, come to the Act Theater tonight for new Penny and Stocking premiere.